the move of daily practice has actually been pretty revolutionary for me, even without the song, Chris. So even without the song, even with this, so this physical gesture, um, making, because I would have a tendency that maybe first thing in the morning I can get up and have really good intentions, and I can start my day off quite well. But then the rest of the day gets caught up in the hurtle of life, and I'd often have a time where after lunch I'd have a bit of a slump, and I'd be really at risk of just maybe starting to mindlessly scroll or in some other way um, fall into a happiness trap, fall into something that's very unsuha because in that one moment it felt good just to lose myself in something mindless. But actually, if I zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the bigger story that that moment is part of, it actually wasn't creating happiness in the longer term. And I found, because during that slump, I might be there and I'd think, oh, there's all these things I want to do, but somehow I couldn't do them. And then just having this simple move that I could make with my hands that reminded me daily practice, that would create a shift for me. And every time that I tried it, it could then lead into, and it was the question you were asking, Chris, what is the practice I'm going to do? Because as I learned more Suha moves, I could then go, okay, I'm going to do daily practice. And I'd start with one and they'd flow into others. But I wanted to speak out about one other move that for me explains why this was so effective to me, having this physical movement to actually get me out of my slump and into something that was actually positive for me. Um, and this move is known as BMAT. And this is based on the works of a person called BJ Fogg. And BMAT, those letters stand for, so the B stands for behavior, and the M for motivation, and the A for ability, and the T for trigger. So what this acronym is recognizing is that sometimes there are behaviors that we would really like to do. We'd really like that behavior to be a part of our daily life. And we might have the motivation to do that behavior. Like, I might be there thinking, okay, there are these things, and I actually do really want to do them. We might have the ability to do them, and yet somehow we still don't do them. The motivation is there, the ability is there, but what is lacking is a trigger to actually prompt that behavior in any moment. So for me, the action of the daily practice of having my fingers go to my hand like this acted as a trigger so that I could actually shift into the behaviors I was wanting. So this concept of BMAT, it's there behind um, all of the Suha moves, but it can also be seen as a move in and of itself. And so with this, this will probably look different from you, but I create a B that looks like a B to me. It probably looks like a D to you. But I create a B with my hands, and in that time, so there might be something. And while I'm creating that B, I'll be thinking of the behavior that I'm actually wanting to do. And I'll be reflecting on my motivation. And if my motivation is low, then maybe this isn't the moment to be doing that behavior. I need to be looking at why my motivation is low. Equally, when I'm reflecting on my ability, that's a time when I can think, okay, do I actually have the ability to do this? And again, if I don't, then this might be a time to move into a different Suha move that could help me to actually develop the ability that can do it. But if when I'm there reflecting, okay, I've got the motivation to do this, I've got the ability, and then what I do is I clap, and the clap acts as the trigger. So already acknowledged I want to do this behavior. I've got the motivation, I've got the ability, and then I create the trigger and I go off and do the behavior. So that's a move that has been really, really helpful for me. But I think it also explains why have, because you might have wondered, what are we doing with all these hand movements and these gestures? And it's an aspect of Suha that actually, when Chris first approached me about Suha and we were talking about it and developing it, the gestures were an aspect that we weren't sure if they were going to actually play a part in Suha. And it was only when we made the first group journey, as a kind of experimental journey through Suha, that we found that these gestures landed really well with people. So then they have developed more. I don't know, Chris, do you have a slide there for the say embodied do? Excellent. Thanks very much. Because this shows how, so for each Suha move, we have these three elements. And the most important of them is the do. So it is actually the healing action, the healing activity. And that will be a tangible step. It might be inner or it might be outer, or it might be both. So, for example, in daily practice, the tangible step is that I actually move out of my slumped scrolling and move into practices that might be other Suha moves, that I know are things that will actually help in my well-being and my change-making skills. And so that's the most important aspect. But we have this say, which is the self-talk, or in Chris's example, maybe self-singing even, So actually saying like daily practice is like self-talk that reminds me, I really want to have a daily practice. And then the embody, so these movements you've been seeing us making, we call them embodied prompt gestures. And so it's something that we can do with our physical bodies somatically that can nudge us to take a step that we might not otherwise take. And for me, both in my experience and in what I've observed and witnessed in the people who've been in the Suha groups, I said it's really surprising what a difference it makes. And people might want to use these different elements to greater or lesser degrees. For some people, the embodied aspect really works. For other people, that might just be something they might just think of it a little bit, or they might do it in a really low key way. And there's a real freedom in it because people can uh, take the gestures or the self-talk and adjust them if they work better for them in a different way or so on. So yeah, anything you'd like to add to that, Chris?
I'm just thinking about the BMAT and a friend of ours, B, who was on one of our first Suha courses. Um, she was lying in bed one morning and she's thinking, yes, I do want to get up. And yes, I'm able to get up. But somehow she still found it a struggle. I don't know if this is familiar to any of you. You know, you've got the motivation. Yes, I do want to get up. I don't want to spend all day in bed. Um, and I know that I'm able to, but it's still such a hard thing to do because it's nice here and I'm snuggled up here. And so she just laughed to herself because she remembered the Suha course and she remembered this BMAT. And I do it like just like that. So again, it looks like a D from one side, but if you kind of there, it looks like a B. I kind of so okay, what's the behavior? I want to get up. And then she just went, okay, B Matt. And she got up and she really laughed about it. And I just always remember that this thing about how do we nudge ourselves to do the things that we want to do.